Nothing in this podcast or on our website should be construed as medical advice. Consult your healthcare provider for your individual nutritional and medical needs. The information presented is based on our research and is strictly that of the author and not necessarily those of any professional group or other individual.
Hi, I'm Sue Becker from Bread Beckers. Welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes. I'm so excited you've joined me today, and I hope this episode encourages you and allows you to find the answers you have been praying for the health of you and your family. Today on Sue's Healthy Minutes, it's time for another It's the Bread story, or should I say stories. My guest today, Rachel Schroeder, emailed me to share how the bread has changed not only her life and the life of her family, but also others that she has shared her bread with. They have seen great health improvements as well. One in particular is very extraordinary, a little teaser for you to listen until the very end. Rachel, welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes, and thank you so much for reaching out. I'm so excited to have you as my guest to share these stories with everyone. But first, before we jump right into all the testimony part, tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and where you're from.
Well, like you said, my name is Rachel, and I am married to my best friend and my pastor. He is pastoring a church here in Illinois, and we have 8 kids from 16, our oldest, all the way down to twins who are almost 4.
I was going to say, you're definitely a busy wife and a mother. You said that you started on this milling your own grain bread journey about 2 years ago. How did you hear about it? How did you hear about Bread Beckers, and what led you to start making your own bread?
Well, my husband and I have been buying bulk not necessarily grains, but pantry items because of having such a large family. And I got an email from a woman that runs a co-op that we would get our supplies from. And she said that a storage facility was closing down operation and they were trying to offload wheat berries as soon as possible. And they were selling them by the pallet, $5 for a 50-pound bag of hard red organic wheat berries.
Oh my goodness.
So the catch was you had to buy it by the pallet. So I talked with my husband and like, well, that is an incredible deal and they'll last forever and we don't know how to use them, but let's get them. So we took our minivan and loaded 2,000 pounds of hard red wheat berries into our car and got them home and then said, how do we use them? So we found a Wonder Mill, a hand crank one, and we thought, well, let's just get that one. That one's cheaper. We had no idea how exhausting it would be. Grind flour from, a hand mill.
Yeah.
And after trying it once, my husband said, we've got to find an electric one. This is crazy. You can't do it, and I can't always do it for you. So we looked around and bought a Wonder Mill, electric mill. But I still didn't know anything about freshly milled flour. I didn't know the benefits of it. I didn't even know how to bake with it. It just seemed so different to me. But that's how it started. I ended up having a friend who said, "Oh, so are you going to use Sue Becker's recipes for your bread and baked goods?" And I said, "Who's Sue Becker and what's?" So that's how I found out about the
Wow. That is definitely a first. And I have a feeling all the listeners are going, where can I get $5 50-pound bags of organic red wheat? That was a find for sure. Man, wow. And I love it. You started with the hand crank. And I love it when you said, I ran out of options for people to mill the flour for me. Yeah, you think, oh, I've got all these kids. They'll think it's fun. Yeah, for about 2 minutes.
Exactly. Yep.
So you mentioned that your family had multiple food allergies, but before bread, before milling your own, but the bread made with freshly milled flour has helped all of that. Tell me about that.
Well, It started actually quite a few years ago. My husband, we didn't realize he had acid reflux, severe acid reflux. And so when he was 27 at the time, he tore a hole in his esophagus because it had been weakened over years of acid reflux.
Yeah.
And he was hospitalized, had emergency surgery. And when we were talking to the gastro doctor before discharge, I said to him, "So what should I feed my husband? Because clearly he needs to heal and we don't want this to continue." And he said, "Oh, he can just eat whatever he wants. Just give him Prilosec the rest of his life and he'll be fine."
Oh my goodness.
And that made me very angry, actually. We left the doctor's office and I said to my husband, "That is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. Food affects your stomach and your digestion." And so that started me on researching and, what would be healthy for him to eat. And we took a food journal, and he found out and realized that gluten and sugar, refined sugar, really caused it to flare up. So he cut out all refined sugar from his diet and started eating more gluten-free things. Then shortly after, my oldest son, Stephen, had some adverse reactions to vaccines. And as a result, he started having different symptoms that were quite concerning. He had a speech delay and had tics and other issues that I saw coming up. And so I started taking a food journal and keeping track of the things he would eat and when his symptoms would be worse. And we figured out for him that it was gluten, and it was food dyes and refined sugar and dairy. And so as a result of their health issues, I just started, because I didn't have time to cook different meals for everybody.
Right.
We switched over to more of a paleo diet for the family, no gluten, and we took out dairy, and we saw some improvement. But I grew up always loving home baked breads and just, comfort food, I'd call.
Yeah.
And so I was cooking for my family, but it just was not satisfying. It wasn't as enjoyable to eat that way. And while their symptoms seemed to improve, my stomach, I started noticing that I was becoming intolerant as we cut out gluten, as we cut out dairy. There were new foods all the time that would start to just cause me problems. And I didn't know why. It was just really strange. I thought, I've never had problems feeling sick when I ate this. And now suddenly I can't eat this and I can't eat that. And so just kind of spiraled.
That is something that I hear all the time when people go the no grain, the gluten-free, path. The next thing they know, or even if they go strictly gluten-free, especially if they're going the commercial gluten-free route, the next thing they know, they can't have dairy, they can't have eggs, they can't have this. And I've, in the last few months, I've talked to two people. One lady was down to 8 foods. One lady was down to 7 foods. One lady was down to like apples or something crazy like that. And just this last week in a class, when I shared that about those two ladies, and she came up with tears in her eyes and she goes, "You just described me. I was down to where I could hardly eat anything." So that's amazing. That is truly amazing. So this was all back before you bought the pallet of hard red wheat, right? And when you learned about the bread. So you learned about the bread, but you were gluten-free, knowing that wheat has those gluten-forming proteins. You jumped in anyway?
Well, I had a doctor that had told us, well, if they have gluten, or, just make sure that they're eating from organic sources and make it, a special treat, not all the time, but just every once in a while. So I had been trying to use the organic whole wheat flour from the store, and it was just discouraging. The bread was like a brick. It was so dry and crumbly and not anyway.
Not enjoyable. Let's just put it that way.
I thought, well, great. We have all of this, these wheat berries. I'll just bake it every once in a while as a special treat. And it shouldn't bother them because we're eating it very, not all the time, just in moderation.
Yeah.
But when my friends told me about bread Beckers, I looked up on your website and found the podcast. And so I started listening to one after another. I mean, I listened through every episode that there was to listen to, and I was just blown away. I went from thinking, oh, we've got to eat this very sparingly to, oh, I think this is what we've been missing, because I had been doing kefir and homemade sauerkraut and trying all the things to heal our gut. And I had been not doing the commercial gluten-free route. I had gone to a completely whole food lifestyle where there isn't anything prepackaged in my house. I have to make it from scratch using, raw ingredients, and it looks like you don't have anything in the house to eat.
Yes.
It just takes a while to make,
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Wow. So your eyes were open that, maybe it's not gluten per se. It's the commercially processed bread that is, I say the protein is eaten out of context. It's eaten without the bran and the germ and all those things to keep our body moving and healing. It is so healing. So you got the hand crank, got discouraged with that, started the Wonder Mill, and you decided to not just eat bread in moderation, but just make it a part of your everyday way you live, right?
Yes. As I was telling my husband what I was learning, and he is the type of person, you don't just dip your toe in. If you're going to do it, you go all in.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. We dove, we jumped all in. We got our mill, and that night we quickly made up some muffins. I was dying to try my family's pumpkin bread recipe with it. And I went to put them in the oven here, and our oven stopped working.
Oh, no.
It was late at night. And so the girls and I drove up to our church, which is just 5 minutes away, used the church oven to bake our muffins because we could not wait to try it.
Yeah.
And used the oven there. And it was just so delicious. And I know that you had said in your podcast you were expecting dry, and I don't know why I was so shocked, but I bit into that muffin and it was just so incredibly moist, even more moist than the white flour that I grew up eating those muffins with. It was incredible. It was so delicious. We ate every last muffin that night. And I said, well, I got to bake some more, guys.
Yep. That's amazing. I'm laughing because your story sounds so much like mine. I mean, when I started, I had 5 children, but went on to have 9, and we couldn't wait. I mean, that mill came in that very first day, and I milled flour and made bread, and we ate the whole loaf, that very same night. And I was shocked like you. I was so surprised that it wasn't dry like the flour from the store. So y'all tolerated it very, very well, not just tolerated it. I hate to use that word, but you thrived on it and you saw relief from all these allergies, these food allergies.
Yes, we absolutely did. I noticed regularity and being able to use the bathroom. I was shocked at my energy level because I would have, even though I had not been eating processed sugar for 2 years at that point, I still would have dips in my energy levels throughout the day. And by 1 in the afternoon, I mean, I was just done.
Yeah.
I needed a nap. And so I noticed an energy boost that was just incredible. And I don't all the things that you have been saying that you noticed or other people did, we noticed in our ability to enjoy food again.
Yeah.
The dairy, it started to not bother us, especially when it was connected. It had to be connected to the bread in some way. Some of us, we can't just eat dairy. We have to
Right.
eat it with bread in some form, and then we don't have any problems.
Yeah.
But probably an effect that I was not looking for or expecting at all was just in my menstrual health and my cycle, because for years, I have had very painful cycles and almost debilitating. The first 2 or 3 days are just very difficult. I'm very weak. I just can't function very well. And after eating the bread for a month, that next cycle, it took me by surprise. I just no cramping. Wait, what? Oh yeah, it is time. And I thought, well, that's strange. I have not had a cycle like that, I don't think, ever. And then the next month it happened again and again. And my daughter, my oldest daughter, she takes after me, unfortunately, and she was noticing a difference in her cycles as well. So an effect that I just did not know to be looking for, and was very pleasantly surprised.
Yes, and I saw the same thing. Mine weren't so painful, and that they were just very irregular. And then all my life, and then after starting the bread, it was like clockwork. I could almost set my clock, and that was so unusual. And that was something, like you said, I was not expecting that. I'm like, wow! But all the B vitamins and the vitamin E, they just nourish your body and give your body what you need. And I think the improved energy as well. When you have a large family and you have lots of kids, and especially pretty young newborns, and your two youngest are twins, wow, they just, that's normal. You have babies, and you're nursing or whatever. And yes, you do get tired and you do need rest, but it was so noticeable that I did not crash, like you were saying, at 1 o'clock, trying to teach school, especially if it was the first grader trying to read to me. It was like, I cannot stay awake. And I just, and you notice it.
Yes.
And then the bowel relief, the constipation issues just gone. That was so amazing. But I just love it that, you saw allergy improvements, because it is so prevalent out there. We're constantly being bombarded that wheat is bad, grains and wheat are bad, dairy are the foods we need to give up. I mean, everybody will say, anytime someone, especially social media, posts something that you probably need to give up wheat and dairy. And I'm like, not necessarily. And I just think that's amazing that you found help in those areas from milling your own grain, particularly wheat. So that's great. So many people comment when they hear our stories of improved health from real bread that they're just anecdotal and that there's no proof that it was the bread. But you actually had some kind of interesting proof, I think. Maybe they'll say it's anecdotal again, but I don't think so. I think you saw it. So tell us about that.
Oh, yes. Well, we had been milling for about a year, and last November, right after Thanksgiving, we had a house fire. And so we were temporarily displaced, and eventually, not too long after, we were able to get back in the house. But as you can imagine, even with insurance covering different things,
Oh, yeah.
The expenses that you're not expecting, the expenses just all add up. And so I was unable to mill and bake our bread for probably about 2 months.
Yeah.
And we noticed a huge difference in those 2 months of not being able to have the bread.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that we were not eating our normal diet. I mean, our church family was wonderful. They brought meals to us. But beyond that, I mean, my constipation was back. My energy level was down. The 3 cycles that I had during the 2 during that time, and then the one after, was just, it was terrible. I said to my husband, "Oh my goodness, this is what I used to deal with all the time."
Yes.
And it just, yeah, it was a very sharp contrast in my mind of when I'm eating it faithfully and when it's taken away. It was just a very big difference. And we all celebrated that first time I was able to bake again. I missed this. This is amazing. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And that, a lot of times, people just don't attribute it to the bread, but so many people said, I was eating clean. I was eating a great diet. I was doing all the right things, except I just left out bread because I'd heard wheat was bad and grains were bad. And then they make that one change and it's so noticeable. And then the other thing, I think I'm not glad that you went through that. That's horrible to have to go through a house fire and be displaced for a couple of months. But it made you, I'm sure, remember going, wow, this is the way I used to live. I thought this was just my lot in life. I had to live this way. But then when you changed and you saw the benefits, now you know for sure that it's the bread. Wow, that is just so great to hear. And are there any other health benefits to you and your family that you haven't mentioned yet?
My husband has noticed a difference in his acid reflux.
Yes.
It has definitely improved. I was not diagnosed with this, so I don't know for a fact, what it was, but I'm assuming it was borderline hypoglycemic, where if I went for a while without eating, I would feel very weak and shaky and kind of I'd call it a hunger headache.
Yeah.
And so that was just normal for me. I just said, I got to eat. I haven't eaten in a couple hours. I got to eat something.
Yeah.
And so I noticed right away that I was not experiencing that at all. I mean, it's well into the afternoon and I realize, I haven't eaten anything since breakfast. I should probably eat something. And I'm not weak. I'm not shaky. And so, in fact, a couple months ago, we had oatmeal for breakfast as we were heading out the door for church instead of having toast because I ran out of bread and I didn't have a chance to bake it Saturday night.
Yeah.
So I had oatmeal, and 10 o'clock in the morning, Sunday morning, I'm sitting in the service and I suddenly felt shaky and weak and just like, I got to eat something right now. And when I just have a piece or two of toast as I'm running out the door, I don't feel that way at all.
Yeah.
I get home around 1 or 2 and I'm ready to eat lunch, but it's not this shaky feeling of I need to eat something because I feel like I'm going to pass out.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
That is, I definitely have noticed that change.
Yeah. I mean, whole grains and the fiber that's there and the good complex carbohydrates that are slowly released into your body just gives you that sustained energy, but that sustained sugar that you need, the good sugars that you need, that your body needs for energy. So that's very interesting. And I've heard a lot of people share that it really stabilizes their blood sugar. And so often when we talk about blood sugar, we think of diabetes, that's the high blood sugar, but hypoglycemia is a very real issue as well, and it can be scary that you get so very shaky and kind of like, I can't go on. So that is just, and I just love it that you and your family have seen such health benefits. How about your son, Steven? Is he able to handle the bread, and is he doing better with the food sensitivities as well?
He is doing much, much better. He has no problems with the bread or the dairy. And he used to struggle with feeling weak and shaky if he had not eaten. He'd just come to me and say, "Mommy, I feel yucky. I need to eat something." And now he's not coming to me saying those things anymore.
That's amazing.
So it has helped him with that. He had gut issues before that, even though I was making kefir and fermenting sauerkraut and trying all the things, taking probiotics, he still struggled with some gut issues, and those seem to have really resolved as well.
Yeah.
And as he's gotten older, his ability to communicate and his speech has definitely improved as well. And his tics, it's very rare that he will struggle with tics now. It's if he's had like a bunch of candy at church with lots of food coloring, and then I'll notice the next day or two he kind of will have a slight tic. But once that gets out of his system and he's not having that anymore, it just it used to be just a normal part of his life, and now it's abnormal.
It's rare.
For me to notice him ticking.
That's amazing.
I'm so thankful for.
Yes, that's absolutely amazing. And I think it's, I point this out all the time. It's great. Probiotics are great. We need to inoculate our gut with those good gut organisms, but we also need to feed them. And grains, the insoluble fiber that is found in whole grains particularly, they get in that gut, and that's the food for those good gut organisms. And then they ferment that insoluble fiber and produce all kinds of B vitamins as well. And so it's a win-win situation. I love it that you're sharing your bread with other people. Again, you sound so much like me. It's like when I got so excited about the bread, I would take bread to everybody and share it with everybody because it was just too good not to share. So your mom and dad you shared with, and they are seeing some good health benefits, right?
Yes, my dad is type 2 diabetic, and he was on metformin and insulin and was still really struggling. My mom was cooking the standard diet for him as far as what they recommend diabetics to have. And it just... It was a very discouraging way to eat. And as I was listening to your podcast more and more, and as I was feeling the benefit just in a couple of weeks of eating that way, I thought, you know what, I'm going to share this with my mom. She's looking for other options. She's praying that God would bring healing and him not to have to be on these medications. And even if it doesn't solve his blood sugar problems, he could at least enjoy life, like enjoy eating delicious food.
Yeah.
So that was my thought. So I shared some podcast episodes with her and sent her links to the grain mill that I got, and just told her what I had been learning. And she ordered a mill and got some buckets of grain, I think the next day, and started baking with it. And they love it. My mom has always been, just loves to bake and cook from scratch as well. And we love soup weather. And we always would have a big pot of soup and homemade bread to go with it. And he couldn't eat that anymore, and we weren't eating that anymore. We were missing just...
Yeah.
Anyway, so now she will get on the phone. So what are you making for dinner? Oh, I made this, and I made this kind of bread with it. And we have said many times, isn't it so nice to enjoy eating again? It's so fun. It's really, really fun to cook for your family and find, oh, we tried this recipe and it's delicious and everybody loves it and it's a comfort food. And so my dad did notice as he was eating the bread that when he would eat the bread, his blood sugar would stabilize more quickly, and he was actually having to lower the amount of insulin he was taking because the insulin was making his blood sugar plummet too low. And so he was steadily having to decrease the amount of insulin. And now he is not healed completely from it, but he is off of the metformin, and he decided to go off of the insulin, and they're working to control it through diet and through some herbs and supplements that they're taking.
What a blessing. What a blessing.
His quality of life is so much better than before. He was having nerve pain and just pain to even walk in his feet. And
Oh,
that's gone. Or I don't know if it's completely gone, but he's
right.
able to walk without wincing in pain. He can move now more comfortably. And just the ability to enjoy food again.
Yes.
It's really wonderful. Wonderful to see him that.
Yeah, and that's the thing to me that's so exciting. I love the improved health, don't get me wrong, but I love just the satisfaction of enjoying good food that you know is nourishing your body, the satisfaction of putting healthy food on the table to nourish your children and your family and your friends. It's just such a blessing. It's almost unexplainable. And you're doing a very good job of explaining it, just to see the quality of life, like you said, and enjoying life again. So that's amazing. I'm so happy that your dad is seeing these good results, and it may never reverse it completely, but it sounds like he's on a good track to getting it under control. So, and thankfully you have doctors or people that are working with you to try to control it with diet and other mechanisms. But just being able to reduce the medication, even if you never can come completely off, that's amazing.
Yes.
So you're now reaching out beyond your family to friends. I think you shared with me that you had one that had breast cancer. How is she doing?
Well, she is in treatment now, and I just started baking for her probably within the last month, and we dropped off some bread to her, and I prayed over the bread. I just prayed,
Yeah.
Lord, please help this to bless her. I don't, help it to nourish her body and help it to provide nutrition for her as she's fighting this battle. And I was so shocked. She said to me the next time I saw her, Rachel, it's the only thing I can eat that doesn't make me feel sick.
Yeah.
And then she texted me later and said, would you please bake for me every week? I'll pay you. Just would you please bake a couple of loaves for me every week? Because it's just I can eat it and it feels good and I don't feel sick eating it. And so I've been baking for her. And just praying that God continues to provide strength for her through it. There's times when I'm able to take them over fresh, like hot out of the oven, and other times I can't. And so it's okay. I had 2 loaves in the freezer. I'm sorry, but here they are. But either way, she's getting some bread. And she told me, I was telling my friend about it, and she said, "Oh, I've been milling for 2 months now, and it's transformed my life. I'm going to send you a mill." And so she's getting a mill from a friend,
Oh
and she's not
my.
going to be filling up to baking anytime soon.
Yeah.
But she said it's something for her to look forward to.
Yes.
That when she's
Yes.
better, has capacity, she will be able to bake for herself.
That is so amazing. I've heard that from so many people, because the cancer treatments do just make you nauseous. They make you sick. They make you lose your appetite. And, I'm not saying it will heal their cancer, but it certainly gives them the nourishment they need to build their strength and build their immunity. And it can be a very difficult time during those treatments that can just make you sick feeling and you don't want to eat. And what a blessing you are with your 8 children and twins and making for your own family, that you've taken the time to bless her that way. And I know God will bless you in return. So the last story you told me about, and this is the one I'm so excited about, I was actually able to share that. You send it to me in an email, and within just a couple of days, I got an email from someone struggling with her iron levels. And so I was able to share that testimony with her to give her hope. So share your story with us. And what kind of bread were you making for your friend, and how much was she eating, if you know, and how long had she been eating the real bread before she saw the improvement? And you can tell us about her text that she sent you.
Okay. So I have a friend. She and her husband stayed with us for a couple of months. They were in between jobs and they didn't have a home. And so we opened our home to them. And while they were with us, they were obviously eating our food. And she noticed that she was feeling better when she was eating with us. And I tried teaching her how to bake the bread, but she still really struggled in learning how to do it. And so when they moved, she said, "Oh, I'm really going to miss your bread." And I decided, well, every once in a while, if I have an extra loaf, I'll take one over to her, give her one. And I was convinced that it could help her because she has low iron issues to the point of needing transfusions every few months. And so let's see, this was about a month and a half ago. She texted me. I had just given her another loaf of bread. And she said, "Rachel, I can't bake because of my work schedule, and I can't make it the way that you've tried to teach me. Would you please bake for me if I pay you?" And I said, "Well, you don't have to pay me. Yes, I will make some bread." But anyway, so she insisted to be paying. So I just was using hard red wheat and a little bit of soft white wheat in it, and just basic bread. And she asked if she could have 2 loaves a week. And so I started doing that for her. And at first, when she asked me, she said, "I just want to have a piece of it for breakfast." And she noticed, she texted me probably 2 weeks later, "Rachel, when I eat that toast in the morning, I have energy. I don't feel weak. It's amazing. I need to be eating more bread. Can you make more of it for me? I'm going to try to eat it like just the bread for a while." So she would make that her dinner when she got home from work. She'd eat bread. She'd eat toast. And she really started feeling so much better. And she went to get her iron levels or her blood tested. And it was improved, but it was still a concern. And so they scheduled her for an iron transfusion. And the doctor said, "Okay, come back in a month and we'll check your levels again." And so last week I got this text message from her. And so now this is a month of her eating it faithfully multiple times a day.
Did she have the transfusion, or did he tell her, you look like you need one, come back in a month?
No, she did not have a transfusion. He said, "Come back in a month.
Okay.
And then we'll see where you're at."
Okay. Wow. Totally bread then.
Yes, it's all bread results. So she said, "I got my new test results. I had my blood taken yesterday. My iron before was an 11, and now it is at 92. Normal is between 50 and 170. My iron binding capacity was at a 34, and now it is at 361. And the normal range is 250 to 450. She said, "My ferritin before was a 4 and is now 52, normal being 30 to 252. And lastly, my hemoglobin was a 6.5 and is now 11.9. Normal range is 12 to 15.5. So my numbers are definitely up. The doctor said we will retest my blood December 15th. I am very excited about these test results. I really think it's your bread. I just can't believe that energy I'm regaining. Thank you so much, Rachel."
What an extraordinary testimony. I was getting teary-eyed just listening to that because that is so debilitating in more ways than one. And iron transfusions are not pleasant to receive. And so in just a couple of months, you said she was eating the bread?
Yeah, she was eating it faithfully for a month at that point. I had baked her a loaf of bread every once in a while before that, for a couple of weeks, and it was eating it every once in a while. She realized, "Oh, the days I eat it, I feel better."
Yeah.
Which is when she decided to ask me if she could have it regularly.
Have more. So
Yes.
I often say more is not always better, but in the case of bread, it is. And it's so funny. I used to get kind of frustrated, not frustrated, but when people would say, well, how much bread do I need to eat? And I'd be like, we're so dosage oriented in America. But then somebody on the podcast shared, she goes, I take this like I take medicine. I don't ever miss. This is my medicine. And I'm like, okay, I think I've been missing something. I've been looking at this the wrong way. This is your medicine. Don't miss a dosage. Take it all day, every day. So that is so incredible. And I hope everyone listening are so glad that you heard this story. To me, what a life changer for this young woman. I mean, this is just amazing. So Rachel, goodness, thank you so much for taking the time to share your stories with me and with all our listeners. It has really been a blessing. We're called to be a blessing, and you certainly are fulfilling that calling. And it's a wonderful gift to be able to share God's blessings of real bread with other people, especially those who may be struggling with health issues. I wish I could count how many times someone has found healing from real bread that was shared with them by a friend. And I mean, from wart stories to heart issues to constipation, this iron, levels, and that's just beyond joyful. I don't even know how to express what I'm trying to say, but it just brings such joy. So thank you again. And before we close, if there's anything else you'd like to share or any final words of encouragement you would like to leave our listeners with today.
Well, I would definitely encourage you, if you're wondering if it's worth a try, you will not regret it. It has brought so many benefits to me, to my family, and now to the point where when we go on vacation, we're baking and freezing loaves in advance, and we're taking muffins, and because we don't even want to be without it for a week on vacation. We just, it makes that much of a difference to us. It's just, it's life now. It's just a normal part of life. And it's not, if you enjoy the kitchen or you have experience in the kitchen, it doesn't have to be very overwhelming. If you're cooking anyway, if you're making food anyway, it's not that complicated. And the benefits far outweigh any inconvenience, for sure.
Yes. And you've seen firsthand before bread and what you felt like before bread, and then after bread, and then when you had to do without the bread, you noticed, you felt firsthand what it was like without it. I just am so inspired to hear what a blessing you've been to not only your family, but your friends, and the health and the joy that they're finding in this bread. And I just want to encourage everyone, maybe you're not like Rachel, maybe you're not like me, maybe you didn't grow up cooking, and maybe being in the kitchen is not so easy, but it is a lifestyle that you can embrace, and just start simple. Start with muffins. Just get a grain mill your flour, make some muffins. And like Rachel was saying, they were better than what you could imagine. So, but when I was reading your story, Rachel, and your testimonies, I find it so interesting that the very word companion comes from the Latin word meaning with bread. Com means with, panis means bread. And the French word actually means one who breaks bread together. And Rachel, I'm so overwhelmed of what a great friend and a companion you have been to your family and to others. And to all listening today, I hope Rachel's stories have given you hope in your health struggles, but also encouraged you to share your real bread with a friend. I love the words of Dr. Seuss. To the world, you may be just one person, but to one person, you may be the world. I want to thank you, Rachel, again for sharing your stories. Thank you for everyone listening today. Until next time, this is Sue Becker from Bread Beckers with Sue's Healthy Minutes.
Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast has been a presentation by the Breadbeckers Incorporated, located in Woodstock, Georgia. For more information, store hours, and learning opportunities, visit breadbeckers.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Share this with 2 friends who would benefit from this information, and be sure to join us again next week for more of Sue's Healthy Minutes.